Happy Sunday. So we got several different things going on this morning. In the last couple of weeks, I've been working on my Hungarian command stand, my night command stand, and we got it done a couple days ago. And I took the time yesterday off camera to varnish the three figures that go on the stand, which are these right here. So we're going to be putting them on a stand. And yesterday morning we started working on our Hungarian archers. So I think this guy turned out pretty well. I'm happy with how he turned out. Even this got a kind of a mitre cap there from, almost looks like a Prussian grenadier there from the 7 Years' War period, or or Fusilier. Not really my period, but you know what I'm talking about. Frederick the Great's boys with this little cap like that, similar to that, and there'll be 5 more guys coming like that. But we're gonna put these guys together on a stand. Um, Now, what I use for varnish, I don't have them here right now. I have them in the garage, but um, I use after I'm done painting, I use a spray gloss, let that dry, then I spray flat, then let that dry, and then the final coat, which I've started using in the last maybe 3 years, 2, 3 years, is doing a brush on of the dull coat, top coat, and that gives it the final shine removal. So um, that's what these are done. These guys aren't even, this particular figure isn't even coated at all. So we're going to put him off to the side. We'll start on them shortly, and let's go ahead and get a base art for these guys. And of course, as always, I have to remember where the hell I left these guys. The basing art. And we're going to do something a little different that I've talked about for a long time and I've put it off. And we're going to base something else while we're at it. Let's just on the other side here. All right, so we need a 40 by 30 stand for these guys. Let's get one of those. Good old Litco stands. And let's get us a magnet. Heavy duty, as a matter of fact. So I use heavy duty magnetic bottoms. So. Okay. They make them also in a product called Flex Steel, which basically looks the same to the naked eye, but they're magnetic. I'm sorry, it's a steel, it has steel properties as well. So I didn't go that route because when I started using this stuff, they didn't have the product wasn't available. And I'm not a science guy, but I did buy some of the Flex Steel. I bought some of the Flex Steel originally. It comes in a sheet, or it did. And I had lined my plastic carrying container with the Flex Steel, so I could take these magnetized things and stick it to the Flex Steel. And it doesn't stick as well as this magnetic thing on something metal. I carry these in like baking trays, and it has a lot of mass of metal, and these stick really well to that. So if I was going to use Flex Steel, so then this is like the metal, and then put magnetic strips everywhere, and then glue it that, and then attach them that way. I suspect that the bond is not going to be as strong as when you use something magnetic to something huge that's metal. I don't know if it's a massive. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a science guy, but that kind of makes sense that there's more electrons or whatever holding it together. But I'm really happy with carrying this in something that's metallic and is pretty cheap. I think that those carrying trays only go for like $6 or $8 or something like that, and they have a lid and everything. So, and that's just your standard baking tray that you would get at any place like Target or Walmart or something like that. So let's screw this on a little bit more. I'm just trimming the edges because I don't like my stands to not be flush. And it seems like I still have that burnt smell, that laser cut smell of the wood. Okay, there you have it. This is this right here. All right, and right. Okay, let's get us a little. Let's mix up some epoxy. And we'll have to pop these guys off. And we'll see how difficult it is. Sometimes, well, most of the time they pop off no problem. Sometimes they want to be obstinate. So these are super glued down, I'm pretty sure. Just so they won't come across. We're just going to slide this exactly underneath there, and look at that. Bam. And this goes in the recycle bin because we reuse all these bases. I'll sometimes have someone ask me, what rule set are you using that the figures are based individually? It's like, no, that's just a way to paint them. And then this guy's got a super thick base on him. This is an old minifigs horse. And for whatever reason, the base is super thick on this one. Look at that, bam. Now, we do have a flag coming, and it'll be put on after they're on the base. I've got the flag designed already, I just haven't printed it out yet. That hopefully will happen next week. And this is a roundway horse. There we go. Piece of cake. All right, I need to figure out how we're going to arrange these. Always my favorite part. So, in a perfect world, I always like putting the commander in the center and the guy with the flag next to the commander with the flag towards the center of the stand, because you don't want the flag all the way here on an end, and it's better protected from getting damage and stuff. So this is normally how I would put these guys together on the stand. That's almost always the case. I may have done it a little different, but I think I was entertaining the idea of going this direction. But I don't think I'm gonna do that. What was the reason? Because the flag was too big, or I was thinking maybe another army. I think I'm gonna go to the standard method here of this guy here, and then this one here. Yeah. All right, so let's get our epoxy together. And this epoxy has served me really well. It's available at the hardware store. It's 5-minute epoxy. This in particular is DevCon. I've been using these two in particular for maybe 10 years, a long time, and I've used very little of it. So this goes a long, long way. We're going to flip this over. We've got old epoxy on here. And I would use it on top of it, but sometimes it's hard to tell whether or not it's wet. I guess I could just do this. So now weaken this. It might go through. We'll just flip it to the other side. This is what I was saying. This is why I use epoxy. Look how well, it flexes quite a bit before it gives. Plus it's gap filling. So this is my preferred method of attaching figures. I'm not using super glue or Zap-A-Gap or anything like that. All right, let's get these. One of these is stinkier than the other. It's this one, the hardener. It's not coming out as fast as normal. It's cold in the house. It's probably close to 60. Maybe a little. Nah, there's no way it's under 60. I mean, we don't turn the heater on or anything, but it's 31 outside. So we've had a pretty cold winter here for Florida, which is good news as far as I'm concerned. It could stay winter for all I care. Some of us more insulated people are happier when it's colder. It's just reality. Although by gamer standards, I'm not. I'm a medium. Let's see. Let's get this guy in here. And we're going to have to lay this material on thick on these guys. Oh, I already forgot to do something. No problem. And what I forgot to do is I've started the trend of painting in between the horse's legs so it's easier to get in there, but we'll just do it old school, like before we realize that was a good idea, and we'll make it work. This does give me some, thank you. Does give me some time. I gotta be careful here. I'm not used to making messes. Does give me some time to manipulate these guys once they're on the stand and get them where I want them. Let's see what we're looking like here. Let's get this out of the way before we get that on something we don't want it to. There you have it. Let's make sure these. Yeah, this guy's not outside. Sometimes you don't want Lance like protruding all the way out here and getting in the way of the next figure over on whatever stand ends up stacking next to it. You should be fine like that. So this is what I like to do is my combination of using different figure sources. These three figures are completely three different manufacturers, and they have some unique stuff to them. So this guy all the way on your left is on a minifigs horse, and it is a Peter Pig figure that I took his lance out, and I think he was a banner bearer originally, but it was a very small flagpole. So we took that out, replaced it with a needle, blunted the end, of course, and he's good to go. So he's a minifigs horse with a Peter Pig figure rider. The figure in the middle is a museum miniatures figure with a head swap. It's the first head swap I've ever done. Matthias Vignati has a particular look to him in all the pictures, and this particular figure came with a head that looked bearded. He reminded me a lot of the Iron Duke of Duke of Alba, and that really didn't work with him. So we swapped his head with the Essex head, and then this figure on the end, and it's a one-piece casting. And this figure on the end is a Roundway horse with an Essex mounted figure for Hungarian Knights. So there it is. It's a big swap thing, and we've got a little red and white motif going on most of the figures. So there it is. For those of you that are interested in that sort of thing, I like to mix and match my stuff. So, okay. So this is drawing. Before we get to the Hungarian Knights, we're going to do something a little different. I've talked about this doing this for a while, and we'll see how it turns out. So let's go over to the closet. I think there should be one of these in here. So I've done lots of different miniatures in my life. I started off with 1/2400 scale ships. I did micro armor, basically World War II gaming for the most part. That's pretty much all I did. And right after that, probably in the mid 90s, I took a road trip to a hobby store in Tampa, which is like a 2-hour drive. We used to go there frequently. Not to game, but to purchase things. Jeez, this thing's fighting me. And I saw some figures that really caught my attention. And these figures happen to be in 20mm scale. And it's a line of figures that at the time were called combat miniatures. And they're World War II figures. And I just fell in love with them. I fell in love with the style that they were done in. And really liked them so much that I wanted to paint them and do a World War II skirmish game based around the fact that I was painting these figures. And so these guys were painted probably around 1996, something like that, 1996, 97. And these were the first figures. This is the first figures I ever painted that were not vehicles. Okay, so before I was painting either ships or tanks or stuff like that. I wasn't doing shading on faces and stuff like that. So these are some of the first figures I painted with the shading. And these are some of the first figures I ever painted using the method of basing everything black. And I don't know where I got it. I mean, this is pre-internet for me. I mean, sure, there was an internet, but I wasn't on one of those. What was that thing called before? With the something scape? I didn't do any of that stuff. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, there was no internet. There was no internet where we could share ideas. So as you can see, my basing technique pretty much sucked. I just painted everything green. They're based on pennies, except this time they stay on the penny. It's not a temporary stand. And just dipped it in the little flock, which was woodland, scenic, something or another. But this is a figure that is painted, what is that, 25 years ago? And it was still, as far as I'm concerned, still holds up quality-wise with the stuff that I do now. But back then, these are also the first figures of any kind that I sealed, because before then, I never varnished anything. It was, like I said, there was no internet, so you couldn't communicate with anybody and share ideas. Good morning, John Peter. How are you? Been a bit late for the last videos. Yeah, well, you caught a good one because we're doing some different stuff here. A couple different things before we get back to the 15s. But these are the first figures that I varnished. Before that, when I was doing 1/2400 scale ships, I didn't seal them. I didn't seal my micro armor. As a matter of fact, I read in an article or something at the time that when I was doing 12400 scale ships, somebody was recommending to paint them the base coat and put them in the oven and bake them. So you bake the base coat on. So there's several of my ships that I did that way. All those ships are gone. I sold them probably, well, it's been almost 20 years ago that I sold them, and I just wasn't playing World War II naval anymore, and they wouldn't look good by today's standards. But anyways, but these were the first figures that I primered. These are the first figures that I took forever to paint, and because it's still the same method that I'm using now, and they're the same figures that I sealed. So the sealer at the time, again, I had read in an article or something like that about using semi-gloss sealer. So these guys have two coats of semi-gloss on them. So one of the things I want to do is, and I talked about this, I didn't want to turn around and go and refurbish all my 20s, because my 20s I'm really happy with how they look, but their bases suck. You know, they're primitive. I don't think the base is equivalent to the paint job on the actual figure. And let's see if I can find one of my later guys. There's also another company. I've been out of doing this so long. There was another company that I really liked called Drew's Militia at the time. And since I've stopped doing World War II, they actually, all of their molds have been retired. So I ended up getting a lot of figures that that they don't make anymore. Um, here's a here's an American guy here. Let's see if we can. So yeah, they got a little bit of a shine to it. So I figured, okay, next time I remember, I'm gonna go ahead and take a couple of figures and fix them up, fix up the bases, give them a dull coat, and see what they look like. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, I really want to get back into doing World War II gaming. Now, my idea of World War II gaming is you show up and you're running 3 or 4 guys. You're running a half squad. So it's small scale action stuff. I'm not interested in doing platoon actions or big things like that. I'm interested in doing like house fighting and things that would be almost like of a movie type nature. So yeah. So this is all of my figures are based on pennies, and they all have the surname of the figure on there. Here's a Drew's Militia guy. This is actually a wounded guy, right? It's a wounded Soviet figure. But you can see they've got a little bit of a shine on them. I want to give them a dull coat paint over and see how much better they can look. And we'll fix up their stands and stuff. We'll put the goop on there, put some little tufts and stuff. I don't want to crazy like turn around and do all these guys, but maybe that's something I can do as I go along, and paint some other stuff up. So I think I'm going to do. I've got a lot of stuff based for one particular scenario that's in Normandy, out of these books right here, and I'm a big fan of these. I have a half dozen of them, and this particular one is it's called Skirmish Campaigns: Heroes of Omaha and Penzalea. Okay, and they give you. Look, let's get you a little bit better view than that. We can do better than that. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so you've got, it's full of scenarios, gives you a little right up here, gives you what the map is supposed to look like. These are supposed to be 12-inch by 12-inch squares. So it's still pretty small. This is like a 4x4 map. And I'll show you the scenario that I actually have all the stuff for. I ran it at a convention. And this is the last game I ran that was not DBA. This is the scenario in particular. It's called Purple Heart Hill. Okay. And this particular one is June 18th, 1944. Okay. And here is the setup here. It is a 2 by 4 foot map. So it's a very small map. I made it in 3D with foam. I was putting away Christmas recently, and I noticed it's still up there. It's been in the attic for, what would it be? 15 years? 16 years it's been in the attic. So hopefully it hasn't melted. But, it has removable trees and everything, and the removable bocage and everything. And there's a gully here running through the middle of it, and there's some entrenchment here, and that's actually cut into the board. So it's actually the tile is it's like 4 inches thick. So hey, Jeffrey, good morning. You used to use them a lot. Yeah, they're excellent books. They're excellent books. So, this is the scenario. And basically, what it is that here's the core force for the Germans. You've got all these items here, and then you roll a die to see what these random elements you can get is. And then same thing for the Americans. So that's why I have so many more Germans than I have Americans, because, well, I wanted to do a scenario that was relatively small in size. And yeah, so the Germans have a platoon headquarters, two infantry squads, a recon team, 80 millimeter mortar, and a heavy machine gun. And then they have some random elements here. And the U.S. has infantry platoon headquarters, two infantry fire teams, so it's only two 5-man teams, and a 60 millimeter mortar, and some other elements as well. So it's definitely a German counterattack, and the U.S. forces are kind of in place. So I ran this, and it's a good game. The problem is that what I realized is I'm not going to run World War II games for conventions anymore, because this is the kind of detail that I like. I used a set of rules called the Face of Battle, which was really similar to what we were coming up on our own, and they're very detailed. And I'm not knocking it, but it just doesn't suit well to a convention play. A convention game, I don't want to get one of these things where you spend an hour explaining the rules. It just doesn't work well. That's why when I discovered DBA, it was nice because you could just get down to playing. People already know how to play DBA when they show up to a convention. So yeah, and this is old school what I keep my figures in. But I got several of these here, and I figured I would go ahead and scrape the stuff off of one figure and base him up and just see how he freaking looks. Because, I want to see how that's, and I even have some of my figures I don't like so much. This is figures of FAA. FAA always have the same cheekbone type figure faces that aren't my favorite. But anyhow, let's use a figure that we like how he looks. I even have 4 Brits. Maybe I should do the Brits. Let's do the Brits. I like my Brits. I don't have them for a scenario, but um, I've got 4 Brits. And that way I can say all of my Brits are based in the new mana. Because I know it's going to turn out well, but you can tell they're pretty shiny. Like, look at this guy. But see this ranking, this corporal rank stripe? That's cast into the figure. These are figures that were done by a sculptor named Dave Alsop, and I'm like his biggest fan ever. So I'm not gonna deny that. He's what got me to paint these figures. So let's find the other 2 Brits, and let's scoop those guys up. What do you say? Something a little different for those of you that are tired of seeing 15 millimeter crap from me. As soon as I find them. Yeah, these guys have actually never seen battle. The Brits, these particular Brits. Just another one. I may just give up and just do those 2 guys, because time's a wasted. Here's another one. Right, one more. Here he is. Blammo. because I've got vehicles and stuff to do. Yesterday I watched a couple of videos I had to wait for my daughter to get done with. Yeah, see, this system doesn't work for me. It's like you move it and then things fall out of place, and these guys need to have magnetized bottoms. But I've got tons of these figures to paint. Now, none of the figures are repeated because the nice thing is that I want each one of them to have a character and a personality. So there's no point in any two figures being the same. All right, let's look at these. And what we're going to do is, one of them actually broke. This was actually Corporal Phillips, I remember. That's who he was. And no, they're not based on anybody in particular. I just grabbed random names, and now I've done it. I have loosened this thing up. Let's fix this before we have a catastrophe. My arm on my table lamp moved. I twisted it, I guess, too much. There we go. Let's attach it like that. Get it back here. Hey, you guys knew this was all going to be unscripted. That's what you get. Let's tighten this up a little bit more. So the way this game plays, and everybody has their thing that they're into, and I don't accept any compromises when it comes to my World War II play. These are the guys we got here. All right, this guy was Phillips, and who's this? This is Duncan, Campbell, and Sharp. Hey, with the E. Okay, so these are the guys that we're going to rebase these guys. Now, I believe I have right when I discovered Litco. Things are way too off right now. Right when I discovered Litco, I was already on my way out of doing these 20s. But I did buy magnetic bottoms that fit on pennies. These are the larger ones. These are the command stands for some silly Renaissance rule set that we used to play that some dummy came up with. Oh, and I even got some stands, but look how thin these stands are. Yeah, they're thin. I don't want no thin stand. So, whoops. So let's just take the bottoms. Let's keep the pennies going. Let's get 4 bottoms. These magnets were sitting in his bag thinking, oh, Tony's never going to use this. Joke's on you, pal. I'm coming for you. All right. Let's base these 4 guys. Yeah, 20 millimeter. I always got into 20 millimeter because of these figures. And back in the day, That's when all the vehicles were available. And now this 28 millimeter fad is kind of taken off. And I'm not a 28 millimeter player. I never played Warhammer. I don't have a, it's not something that's ingrained in me. I grew up with Airfix figures and 1/72nd scale and models and all that stuff. So I like this scale. This is actually my favorite scale. And so yeah, let's give it some love, right? And what we're gonna do is, I just took a little piece of balsa wood and put the name of them on there. We're going to replace that. Yeah, but 20 millimeter is really big in the UK, or it used to be. I don't know if the UK has really gone in the direction of 28s for everything now, and 15s, but World War II 20 millimeter was big in the UK. It was hard to find stuff in the States. That's why I say I always call the UK as the land of toys, because anything I've ever wanted always came from the UK. And once I got out of doing GHQ stuff, UK is where it's at for toys for me, for figures. Okay, now these guys should be able to stick on something that is metallic. Oh, I didn't get a good bond. Huh. Perfect. And I actually have a book on the, I actually have one of the skirmish campaigns that has the Commonwealth in it. I believe it's the Scots that are in it, the Epsom book. So, let's see. Da-da-da-da-da-da. AB figures, all my World War II's 20 millimeter, 1/72nd. Good. Yeah. AB figures, no. These are, this is before AB. Well, at the time, AB made very few things in 20 millimeter. I'm going 20 years back. So there's nothing wrong with AB figures. I prefer these figures to AB because AB all have a very similar face. They all have a very, and it's not a bad, but you can tell it's almost like the same guy. And this sculptor had a way of putting people with different faces. I don't know what he did, but he really was pretty brilliant. Let me see if I can show you one. So let's go ahead and take some of this stuff off and have some fun with this. Well, you know what I got to do? I've got to I'm going to have to seal them. I don't want to seal and get this stupid little grass in it, stuck in it. Let's take some of the stuff off the feet before we do that. And if this just takes too long, then we'll just go back to doing 15s and we'll pick this up at a later time. But I've been talking about doing this for a long time. Yeah, and these guys even, look at this stuff that's on there. They have the patch of the unit cast on there, along with the semicircle there of the unit. This is like 50th Infantry Division. Yeah, good stuff. Really great sculptings. Yeah, this basing just crap. But this is, this is the first stuff that I did figure-wise. So you've got, I think the flesh had like 6 different shades of it on there. So I was really happy with how this turned out. Let's go grab an old friend. Get us some helping hands. And let's give this guy a go. Now, I do have water-based stuff I could use instead of this, but it seems like this one's more durable. The water-based stuff is this right here. This is the clear, this is the gloss one. I have a flat one here too. Where are you? Here we go. Flat clear in acrylic. This is weird because it looks really, really milky, but we're going to stick to this. And this is the one that I'm more familiar with. This is the one I use on all my figures. I picked up this stuff for the purpose of brushing it on flags, like the little Big Man Studios flags. This is what I brushed on it. I thought that this enamel would have been too harsh for it. So, all right, here goes. We're going to just do this one figure, and then we'll get back to normal. But yeah, I watched a couple of videos that while I was waiting for my daughter to get out of swim practice yesterday on detailing vehicles, and it's like, holy hell, that's a lot of steps. It's nice to know other people take for freaking ever painting things too, but my motto is try to paint it as good as you can. But I like a look of the figures that makes them look almost like a comic book or a graphic novel. Now, the stuff with this stuff is as you're drying, you do not want to go over the same spot again, because what will happen is you'll end up picking the paint off because it gets sticky. And once you brush over after it's been sticky, you're kind of up a creek. Let's let him dry, and we'll check up on him in a little bit. All right, let's get back to 15s. Figured you guys might enjoy that, something a little different. Back when I used to be on the miniatures page, I don't go there anymore. I haven't been on the miniatures page in probably 16 years. There was a guy I remember that said 20 millimeter, the one true scale. And it really pissed some people off, but I remembered it. And at the time I was still doing 20 mils. And I'm like, yeah, I like that. I'll remember that. The one true scale. Well, I don't do it for ancients and stuff, but when I was painting these guys, 15 millimeter wasn't a World War II scale. The only people at the time that I remember, Peter Pig may have come up with, had World War II figures at the time, but at the time it was really Command Decision, had those Old Glory packs with Command Decision, and they were in 15s, but pretty much everybody was either doing micro armor or 20s, or I think 28s were just starting to appear, or that stuff. So, okay, let's grab the goop. Good old resin sand from Liquitex. Let's see. Harvey Gert says 20 millimeters still the main scale for World War II. Good. Stick to your guns, boys. 28 millimeters getting popular for bolt action games. I've watched a bolt action game being played it's not for me. I need more. I need more. I need more than that. The game that came close, I was because I've played all that stuff, Command Decision and Rapid Fire, and what's the other one that's like Spearhead, skirmish games. I played Battleground. I had a friend of mine that swears by Battleground. It just isn't. It's cool because it has hit locations on vehicles, the way that's handled. But no, I'm honestly, I'm better off playing really small scale rules. Another set of rules that wasn't bad was this one came out, Firefight Normandy or Normandy Firefight. I put by, I want to say North Star Games made it. It came out maybe 10 years ago. It's not bad, but it has no vehicles. I don't mind using vehicles as long as you only have a handful. It doesn't need to be a vehicles game. Some of those skirmish campaign scenarios are like 15 vehicles in like one squad. I'm like, no, that's the wrong thing. So, wrong thing for me. All right, let's get this stuff out of here. But the game that comes close is the Two Fat Lardies game called Chain of Command. Has some interesting things, but it still isn't small scale enough. It needs to go down like one level more. Like I said, I like games where you're commanding a half squad at the most. So, you lose a guy, and it's kind of a big deal. It's not like, oh, well, just another guy lost. It's kind of a big deal. So, mm, I know what you mean about the faces. Yeah. Doing double duty, 4-year-old grandson's here for a visit. We're doing some arts and crafts. Crossfire is a good convention rule set for World War II infantry. So, 15 millimeter is God's choice, all the gods. Good morning. Oh, man. Yeah, it is now. I mean, I would probably, if I did it again, I don't know. For me, it got me, the figures themselves is what got me interested in it. So, really, it was the only option at the time for that. So, if I did 15 millimeter World War II, I'd probably still base them individually. There's enough variation between all the manufacturers. But I had a friend of mine that was thinking about doing Saga in 15s, and that sounds interesting. But I the problem with putting on a convention game is you have to spend some amount of time talking about the rules, explaining the rules, and I already have a job that I have to explain things to people that they don't listen, and it's really frustrating. So I don't think that that's a good combination for me. And I have to mind all my figures and make sure people don't damage them. So I was relieved when I went to DBA, and now I move my troops and they move theirs, and it's a little bit less stressful. Let's put it that way. Most people are okay, but sometimes you get knuckleheads that just destroy your things. So, and I did have one figure come up missing. At some point, I had a German grenade launching guy. I believe his name was Kohler, and he came up missing. Some bastards got him. I hope he passed on a disease to you, you thieving bastard. He disappeared actually from a painting contest I entered him. I wasn't careful when I picked him up and just didn't count all my figures. I just don't assume people's going to touch somebody else's figures. But we won't be doing any more painting contests. So, painting contest was just a way to get some extra cash to buy stuff, and I don't need to buy stuff, so no point in taking a risk. But they make 20 millimeter stuff for other things, and some people play DBA in 1/72nd. Uh, I don't like plastic, so that's kind of a deal breaker for me. But I like the I like the 20 millimeter scale. But mainly it was because at the time, you could get in any vehicle. Now, with Flames of War, they make just about everything as well. So that's not an issue. But yeah, I stopped working on 20 millimeter World War II stuff. I had just Drew's Militia had just come out with a Stalingrad range of Germans and Russians. Really cool figures. Remember, I'm interested in them all looking different. So they had probably, I don't know, 40 or 50 figures from each nationality, Soviets and Germans, that all had individual poses and different equipment. It wasn't like SHQ where there's different poses, but they all have like the same equipment on them. So that was really cool. So I checked up on them about a year ago, and the molds had gone into disrepair several years ago, and they got pulled and are out of production. So I got collector stuff, and I had no intention of doing it. And the last time I messed with them, they had just come out. So they had come out like around 2003, 2004, or something like that, just before I got into DBA. So almost done. Just a little bit more around in between these two horses. I think I can push it through with this. Might need to use something a little smaller, but yeah, I saw some people doing some detailed vehicles. See, I used to build models. I used to build 1/35th scale models. Not to the degree that I'm doing stuff now, because I think that the internet has just made us all better. Hopefully, you can compare other people's ideas and go like, "Man, I really like that. What did you do?" Well, I did this, that, and the other. It's like, "Oh, I'll try that." We all hopefully all improve how we're doing by sharing knowledge with each other. That wasn't around back then. So I think the internet has been really good for hobbies. Maybe not so good for some other things, but the internet's really good for people that want to be positive, put a positive influence on our distractions, not necessarily people that want to cause trouble. Okay, let's see how this guy's doing. Oh, he's definitely duller. And one thing I didn't realize is when you put this dull coat on it, it starts dulling over time. So tomorrow he'll be even more dull. Well, that's not focused at all. That's not going to work. All right, let's try this. Let's try this like this, and let's try this like this. And we're going to put a little focus on this guy here. And it's still in 720. If I took a photo of this guy, it'd be a lot better. Kind of bright leaves, but hey, he picked up the bright ones. You want it to be fancy. Okay. We'll come back to Corporal Phillips later on today. So these guys are gooped. Let's not make the mistake that I did the other day, and I didn't put rocks on some. So let's go grab our rocks. I've got 3 containers of them. It's not that one. I know it's going to be the 3rd one I get. There we go. Love it when I'm wrong. All right, so let's make sure we don't have any other commentary. You were playing Chain of Command yesterday over Skype. Trying out Doom Squad with 21 Limited this afternoon. Gaming calls. Catch you later. Okay, have a good time. May all your dice rolls be sixes, unless you're playing Axis and Allies. That's another thing. I come from a background of percentile. So I go to play this DBA game, and you guys only use a D6? That's stupid. Well, now I've gotten used to it, but still weird. It's still weird. So we were coming up with our own set of rules, not to sell them or anything, just to play with our own little soldiers. And the problem is that my buddy of mine at the time, he's moved around a lot. I've lived in the whole same town since 1981, so I kind of know where I'm going to be here for the long term. But he's had to move around a lot, so we didn't have a play test group per se, and we did have an area to leave games set up and stuff because I lived alone at the time and had a rather big place to myself. Let's put it that way. So. And I wish this interaction that we're having now on the internet was around back then. That would have been pretty cool. But we didn't have, we weren't in close contact very much, and we're trying to build everything from scratch. So we played some games, but never really got off anywhere. And then around 2000, I came across this set of rules, and they were really close to what we were doing. The only difference is that we had, in one die roll, we had a to hit number, and I'm talking about like rifle fire. We had a to hit number with one die, and then the effects on another die roll, and this one combines them in one, which I don't like, but I know speed of play and all that stuff. Again, I'm not trying to simulate a platoon action. I'm trying to simulate like the fighting scene in Saving Private Ryan when they've got the bayonets. So really small tactical type stuff. Movie moments is what I like to call it, so that's the stuff that we're interested in doing. I've always said that the more time you spend painting an individual figure, the more time he should last in play. So there's no point in spending 12 hours painting a figure and it's like, okay, odd or even he lives, because it's like, well, why am I spending so much time on these figures? They don't get in. I don't get to look at them on the tabletop, because that's really what it's all about. It's about painting something and then doing something with it, at least for me. If it was just gaming, I would just fire up a computer game and go to town on that. But it's not the same. So we have this stupid skill of being able to paint things, and we want to keep that going. So we need to find things to use it. Yeah, so here we go. See if we can find a focal point here. This is Matthias Hunyadi and his entourage. And we'll get a flag on him in a week. I gotta go print it out. I've already got it made up. I just got to print it out. So, all right. I'm going to set this off to the side. That'll be the 10th stand. So once I get these 2 stands of bowmen, this army's playable. But we're going to keep going. We're going to do like the Irish. The Irish, I could have played it one time, and I kept doing a couple more options, because when we leave Hungary, we're not coming back. We've got too many other things to paint, so... All right, let's move these Brits over here. Move you chaps over here. And, yeah, my 2 favorite periods, my 2 favorite theaters of World War II land is the Russian front and the desert, or the Western Desert. That's my 2 favorite periods. So... everybody likes the desert. I think everybody likes the desert. except that doesn't work really well for like infantry actions, but you can if you do something that involves like taking out a strong point or something like that, or a night action. Or I actually saw an article recently. It was a free article, and I don't remember what it was. It might have been like soldier strategy or something like that. I was surfing around, and it was a link, and it was a very small scale scenario that was British and Italian, and I don't remember where I saw it, but within the last week, that was pretty cool. I don't have any Italians, but I got Japanese, I got some Marines, both unpainted, Russians, Germans, Brits, Americans. Yeah, but I like the Russian front stuff because it's just, I think it's a good balance of different things. And like I like to say, now both of you can play the bad guys. Which bad guy do you want to be? Okay, let's go back to these Hungarian and guys. And you can see in a little thumbnail that I did for this video. This is my first Hungarian archer. Now, there's some things that are going to be common to all of the troops. The bow, I'm going to use the same bow color for all 6 of them. And maybe that's about it. But we'll vary the color of the cap a little bit. But some kind of felt cap that these guys wore. So, okay. Yeah, so the way our World War II gaming is on the scale that we're doing is to give you kind of a quick rundown and see if I can do 2 things at once. I usually fail at that, but we'll give it a go. Let me find my color here where I was at. I think, ooh. So the way the skirmish gaming was going was, if you had average, okay, let me back up. So the way units were activated was every figure had a chip or a card. I prefer to use chips because I don't think that shuffling a deck is a very good randomizer. I know people complain about dice, but man, shuffling a deck of cards just, I just think that you got to shuffle it for a long time to get it right. Here's this. Oh, this is the color I was using. That's right. Well, this is what happens when it's overnight. They kind of separate the top and the bottom. So this is actually what I was working on with the leather color. Let's go over here. That's what this is, right? I'm having my dad smell. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So I wanted to vary it. I didn't want both guys to be exactly the same because I'm painting both exact poses at the same time. So that forces me to make sure that I don't paint them both the same. So anyhow, so the way activation is, I don't think there's a turn sequence. I think it's just each figure has a card or a chip in our case. So you have a chip with each person's name on it, and you throw them into a bag, and you pull them out one at a time, and they get one action. Now, if they're average scale troops, if they're average quality troops, each figure would get 2 actions. So let's say you have 10 men, you're playing 10 men on your side, you would have 20 chips for that. That would be in a bag. And your opponent would also have, if they had 10 men, 20 chips, and they would go in a bag. And you pull them out one at a time and they get one action. Now, it's conceivable that one guy could go twice. But you get one action and then you pull another one and you pull. So you could get 5 guys that go in a row, and then your opponent could have, one, and then you go back and do, it's random activation the way that works. If you have a unit that has leadership abilities, whether that's a corporal or a sergeant or anything like that, they'll have another rating based on their ability. So they'll have other chips based on that. They're command chips. I don't know if they're exactly called that, but it's something like that. So maybe an average guy will have one command chip if he's a corporal, and like maybe the sergeant will have two. Those are a different color, and it'll still have the oh, one thing I forgot to mention. Each one of these chips has that particular soldier's name on it. So when you pull, it's not like you pull a chip and it's one guy on your side. It's a specific guy. Okay, that's why I have my figures all enabled with their surname. So you pull Smith, it's Smith's turn to go. And you pull another one, and maybe it's Johnson's turn to go, or what have you. And you go through that until all the chips are used, and then you shuffle them back in again. So if you have a command action, most commanders will have one or two other chips that will have the name of the commander on them. Now, if that chip gets pulled, they can activate any figure, not themselves, but any figure under their command that's within a certain radius of them. Okay, and the radius may be 4 inches or something like that. It's not a huge amount, but what it allows you to do is put them with something that's important, like a medium machine gun, to keep it operational. Because everything takes one action to do, whether it's to fire, whether it's to move, whether it's to unjam a gun, whether it's to reload. And this is face of battle, what I'm describing, which was very similar to what we were doing. So after I read through the rules, I'm like, let's just go with this instead of coming up with our own set of rules, because this is 95% of what we wanted to do anyways. So everything takes an action. You don't keep track of ammunition, but if you roll bad enough to hit, it could cause a malfunction that's really called a jam. And the jam could do lots of different things, like, well, I think there was malfunction. There was also where you had to reload. So in other words, it was assumed that you could keep reloading and it wouldn't take an action until you ended up rolling so badly that you got a reload counter placed on you. And that means something happened, or you fumbled, or something happened with the firearm where you needed to spend an action to clear it. So that was kind of interesting. And it doesn't happen that often, but it is something that can happen. So you want to put a commander with a gun that takes different to keep it firing. So, and it's really interesting, the timing of stuff. It may seem really entertaining, but it really builds a story. What's the word I'm thinking of? What's the phrase I'm thinking of? It builds a really interesting narrative. And the same thing happens for the tank crew. So the tank crew, if you say have a T-34 tank, and you'll have a chit for each one of the figures in the tank. So you fire a gun, it's the gunner's turn. He fires a weapon. Now the gun's empty. So now you can't fire again until the loader's chit comes up and he loads another round in. Or if the commander's chit comes up, maybe not use a T-34, because the T-34, the early ones, the commander was the loader. But if you had something like a Panzer III or something like that, they can't reload the chamber again until the loader's chit comes up, or the commander's chit comes up and he tells the loader, Rouse, load another round in, And then, so it's the timing of all that stuff and how it builds a narrative kind of in slow motion. I know it sounds really anal retentive, but that's the kind of stuff that we enjoy. It does move fast, okay? It's just slow in that you have to go to each individual action per figure. So you can see in a cumbering system like that, you don't want to be doing one platoon versus another platoon. It's a bit too much, but we enjoyed it, and and it's pretty cool. Now, the way the vehicles move, and this is again, I'm going by memory, so if I don't have this exactly correct, you know, don't sue me. But the vehicles, along with all of the infantry chits that we have, there's also vehicle chits. So as soon as there's a vehicle present, I believe you throw in 10 extra chits that are movement steps. So they come up randomly. So you could actually have a movement come up instead of a character, and when that comes up, all the vehicles move a preset amount that they're set to. They have kind of like a sheet for each vehicle that tells you where the crew members are on it and what have you. And each one of the vehicles would move at that step. So the vehicles are going to move. It's not like the infantry moves slow and then the vehicles zip through. The vehicles will move 1/10 of their movement. They'll end up moving in the whole turn during that. Now, if you get going too fast, it's a problem because you can only adjust your speed and stuff when the driver's chit comes up. So if you get going, zipping through a town, you may run into something. So it's interesting. It builds a really cool narrative, and it's definitely we definitely enjoyed it. But all right, I need to go check on one thing, and I'll be right back. But we had a really good time with it. The problem is that when we started playing that, I no longer had a place to leave things set up because it's definitely one of those. Let's put it this way: if we did it now with a game group that we had now, it'd be pretty cool. But we'd have a game that would go on for like 6 weeks or something like that, which would be. I'm not saying that we won't do that in the future, but we got a lot of things to work on before we get to that point. I'll be right back, folks. Okay, back. But anyhow, yeah, if I had to do that all again, I'd probably solo game it, or you play something where everybody is on one side, and and the GM controls like one opponent because it's what takes up a lot of time is not actual the gameplay, but all the whole people wanting to pull you aside and asking you a question so that the other side doesn't know what's being asked, and all that drama that's present in all these other games that is just kind of how things used to be done. They're not done that way anymore if you're doing like DBA and stuff like that. You can just, it's a lot easier to have a system where you can't do whatever you want, but you're aware of everything that's going on. You can't do anything to stop it, than to have one where you have to pull the fog of war onto the player that's actually playing as well, because that takes a lot of time. So I think it'd probably work better with that. And also have one thing that would be ideal if I got to painting this stuff again, the 20s. One thing that would be ideal is I'd do some French resistance fighters. I've got about a squad, about two squads of them, and they wouldn't have surnames. They'd have their first name as their thing, and that'd be pretty cool because you could have like a couple guys go in there, and they'd all have different equipment, and that'd be pretty neat. That'd be pretty neat. But Firefight Normandy's not bad either. But there's no vehicles in it. I mean, I guess you could come up with it, but it's a little bit more detailed than Face of Battle. The thing is like 3 years ago, I checked to see on Face of Battle who was playing it, and the rules are out of print. You can't even get them anymore. So I go, man, it hasn't been that long, but I guess it's been 20 years. But I guess 20 years doesn't seem like that long ago to me because, I've been stuck playing these little 15s the last 20 years. So, okay, let's bring these up a little level, a little more. But you got to be a World War II not to want to play that kind of stuff. It's just not going to appeal to most people. That's like something that's not very detailed, like Flames of War or something like that. Just doesn't appeal to me. I've played it; it just doesn't have the depth that it should have for my enjoyment. But that's okay. You guys enjoy it; you can do it. So, or Rapid Fire. Rapid Fire is the same scale of Command Decision, which we played for many years, doing the um, micro armor and stuff like that. And it has the same problem that Command Decision has, and that's that infantry is basically useless against tanks. So it ends up being because of the range, you've got to get really close to them, and you don't not going to set up you're not going to set up games where the ranges are that small. So it ends up being a slugfest within tanks, and infantry is just kind of relegated to the sidelines. And I prefer a more combined arms type of a game. And I've done all those 1 to 5 scale games before, and I think Rapid Fire has that rule in there with no matter what, a 6 hits. So at least the version we were playing at a convention had that rule. So if you had Stewarts going up against the front of a King Tiger, they roll a 6, they're going to hit, and they're going to knock one out or put a hit on them, or I forget exactly how it works, whether they can take hits, and that's a little too dumbed down for me. Like I said, I can handle these ancients and medieval games being dumbed down because I think DBA is definitely dumbed down from the standpoint of effects that happen. But if you're talking about World War II or naval combat, I'd rather not play it if that's how it's going to be. I got a friend of mine he did Napoleonics in college. That's what his major was in. And he doesn't play Napoleonic games because they just don't satisfy him. And I get that. I get that. So, all right, let's compare this to this guy here and see that they're significantly different. Yeah, let's say they're significantly different. Good. Off we go then. All right. Let's give this guy a facial. Okay, here's the range of colors that I use for the face, how it blends from one to the other. It's kind of cool. I like seeing stuff like that when it happens. So we're going to start with red leather and black. Now this guy, of course, has a mustache as well. This will not have a blonde mustache. We're going to mix it up. It'll either be brown or black. I don't want everybody to be look exactly the same. You guys hear that? It sounds like a... I wonder if it's something... Like, I don't hear it now, but... It's almost like a little vibration with the table. And because I'm talking so low and there's no background music, and I don't hear well, I'll admit. Okay. I guess it was two up against the wall. Okay, good. I wish I could solve all problems that easy. Yeah, I don't hear well, but if it's a low sound, I hear it. It's my highs that are shot. But I still consider myself a World War II gamer. That's where most of my gaming has been. I've played lots of Advanced Squad Leader, so forth. You know, a long time ago. I don't think I'd be able to handle Advanced Squad Leader now because I don't like the turn sequence. It's too structured. There's not enough chaos to manage. It's a good game, and I didn't think it was that complicated. But the rule book is definitely not a, even though it's massive, it's definitely was never an issue for me. You could always look things up and find it, unlike certain other purple rule books that I've struggled with throughout the years. And I've actually played a fair amount of the game that I like to call the Squad Leader ripoff. I don't mean it ugly, it just, or that they need to be sued. It's just kind of obvious that they were influenced by the other one. Is lock and load. And I think lock and load's actually better. I like it better because there's no turn sequencing like there is in ASL. Like that. And it's a comparison of die roll type game like DBA. So you rolled an attack and the other guy rolls a defense and you compare the numbers. That's, I think, works better to keep both people interested in rolling for resolutions. So I paid a fair amount of it on computer. Um, a couple of my friends really wanted to play it, but the multiplayer has been messed up for a while, so much that I haven't tried it again since probably September. But it's okay against the computer. It's just not very challenging sometimes. It's the same scale of game as ASL. It's just a little different, and it's kind of made so that they have the common rule sets. You can use it all the way to from probably earlier than World War II all the way into modern if you wanted to. But it's eerily similar to ASL, and just the way the counters look and the information that's on them. So and it's also a D6, and you compare numbers and then roll D6 and compare numbers again. And ASL is a 2D6 system, and I'm not a fan of the bell curve. I don't like the bell curve. I don't. In other words, where you're rolling 2D6 and never was. Mm, checking out the face of battle. 20 years is nothing in wargaming. Okay, well, that's what I thought. Um, for into complex rules, DBA came at the end of ever more complex ancient rules, such as WRG 4th through 6th edition. I never played any of them. DBA was the first thing I played that was ancients or medieval. I don't mind complex rules. I just don't like games that I have to paint so much stuff and it's only for like one nation. It's just too much. And I don't want to reach over a table anymore. And it's not that I'm in bad shape, it's just it's uncomfortable. It's just uncomfortable. Now that goop that we put on the stand there for the nights, that's going to be until this evening before I can mess with it. That's the only thing I don't like about it is I wish I could, snap my fingers and be done. But that's just one of those things. I'm not used to having to wait for things in my painting style, to dry. Not really used to that. So, because in a perfect world, I don't like to jump around. I like to finish one thing before I go on to something else. You have something to show for it then. We'll see how this goes. Maybe I'll occasionally paint a vehicle, build a 20 millimeter vehicle or something like that. In between stuff, because we got to keep this thing going. We got these armies to finish up. More armies creates more videos. But that narrative game is really cool, and I think that Luke would have a lot of fun playing Russians. I would have a lot of fun watching Luke play Russians. Let's put it that way. Man, coffee's not working too well this morning. Add a little bit more of this. Okay, let's add a little bit of white on here for some highlighting. Yeah, I watched a couple of videos yesterday regarding like chipping and stuff like that on like models. I'm like, holy cow, you guys just, as I like to say, it looks better than the real vehicle. I just prefer the look of miniatures that looks like a graphic novel. Not a comic book, but that's just my preference, as opposed to something that's uber realistic or something like that. Okay, good with that. All right, let's. This guy's going to have red pants or red hose. This guy's going to be a red hoser. But I think what we need to do next is the bow. We did the bow. We did this buff color and we mixed it with black. Let's do that again. Complex rules were a thing back in the 70s. Rules that added more factors for combat and morale sold well. Playing them now just seems tedious. DBA emphasizes decision, which is the fun part. Yeah, you get things accomplished. You're going to finish the game. I think DBA, though, it could be a little. You spend most of your time. I think the game could be easier to contact and more complicated to combat. What game makes the game awkward is how symmetrical some things are, which just makes it feel like you're not really playing it. To me, I walk away from playing DBA games and I'm like, I don't feel like I've played Mongols or Knights or something like that. I just felt like I've played a game. It's a good game, but I don't feel like I did anything representative of what the units are. I don't know if that makes any sense what I'm trying to get at, but it's a good game, and I think it's a pretty well balanced game. But I don't think that I feel like I've just fought a cavalry action or what have you, because it's just so abstract at times. And I wish if there was a way to change that part a little bit, and but not more stands. I mean, I'm fine with it 12 on 12. I think that works. That's, I think, key to it. Um, but anyhow, I won't be playing another ancient system that involves units having to line up with each other. Let's put it that way. So that means I'm always play this, or whatever I do will have that other aspect, because I think that that's the part that just seems really weird from someone who doesn't come from that background. In other words, if you've got two units here, let's see if they can get them right on the. Okay, you got two units here. The fact that you have to go into combat like that, that you can't have combat like this, just is difficult for new players to understand. And I keep harping on that, but it's huge. It just makes it feel, really weird. Like you're not really playing something. Like, why couldn't they fight like that? Why does one have to line up with the other? Other games do it. So I won't be playing another rule set that involves lining up like that, because that's just adding more of the same to it. So it's a little too awkwardly geometric. Oh, I better stop using this brush, or it's not going to be around for a face anymore. I need to make sure I don't waste the talents of that brush on this that other brushes could do. But the good thing about DBA is it's over quick and lots of people play it. So well, that's the appeal. If I didn't have anybody to play DBA with, if nobody played DBA, I wouldn't play it. There's no doubt about it. I wouldn't play DBA. I would have come up with something else, but what's the point in playing something else and then getting rid of the big amount, the large amount of people that already play DBA? So That's just my that's just my philosophy on that. Not trying to convert anybody, just just telling you like it is. The 70s sets try to be realistic, but only as far as to what people perceive realism to be. They became too mechanism driven, which impacted on playability and fun. I think it impacted also on I think the biggest factor of anything is the people you're playing with. If you're playing with the wrong people, your game's going to suck. I don't care what you're playing. Um, and I'll admit, I would say in my wargaming experience, when I've had someone to play games with, it has always been a positive experience because I don't put up with none of that bull crap. If you start being a dick, I'm not going to play with you. I mean, it's just that's just not my idea of a good time. And you can razz each other, and we certainly do plenty of that, but it's all good natured, and everybody has a good time. But yeah, I haven't had those horrible experiences that many people have had with people throwing dice or getting upset or I'm going to go back to my corner and no. For me, wargaming's always been a positive experience. I just don't put up with that crap. I'm not gonna, if you got a game group and you got one guy who's a pain in the ass, everybody that's cool and easygoing isn't gonna make that guy better. That one guy is gonna ruin the experience for everybody else. It's just like at work. You got one employee that stinks and five that are good. The five guys aren't going to make the one guy that stinks say, you know what, I need to up my game and change myself. So I'm no, the one complainer and bitcher is going to bring everybody down. So it's like, what, I don't have anything to do with this. And I really haven't had to like verbalize that and said, I don't want any part of this because Frank's here and Frank's a pain in the ass. But like I said, I haven't had any bad experiences. It's not denying other people have had them. I'm just saying I've been fortunate, I guess, that I just don't put up with that stuff, you know? And a lot of it is how you carry yourself. You don't, if you're going to play the rules real particular and anal retentive, like measuring every little corner and everything, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you hold yourself to the same standard. Don't be that guy that says, "Oh well, let me make sure that you didn't go like a third of a millimeter over." But then when you move, you end up moving things vaguely. No, that's uh, that's a personality problem and solved by pistols at 30 paces. That's some dishonorable play there. But I've been fortunate that just about everybody I've played with, we've had a really high sense of honor, and that's really the very most. That's the most important thing because like I said, if it was just the gaming part, I'd just fire up the computer and play a computer game. It's about the interaction with other people. So if those people have a bad interaction with you, why are you even doing this to begin with? You know? Yes, it's not what you play, it's who you play. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to play with people that their life sucks so bad that their only chance of having anything pleasure is playing a game. And things happen. You don't roll a six when you want to, and things go south. And then, you have to that person you have to deal with is a rotten apple. Like, nah, sorry. I get paid for that kind of stuff. I'm not doing that for free. I'm not going to deal with people like that. It's my notice. You dickheads of the world, don't come find me. I'm not going to play games with you. And it's not just gamers. I mean, sports fans. I live in a heavily sports involved town. I don't do any of it. I don't watch any of it. But growing up here, I see the people that are just angry sports fans. I'm like, and I think that's much more removed than playing war games, because war games, I'm at least the one making the decisions. I'm the one painting the figures. Sports, you know, you just, if you're a fan, you're just watching other people do things. So why are you so like pent up and angry about a game? It's like you're not even playing, dude. You don't even know any of the players. I never get it. So yeah, I've seen plenty of like angry people. We were cheated and this kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't want to be around people that are like that. You know, I could see if you're playing the sport, but just watching other people, who cares? I don't get it. I don't get it. It's not my thing. Not my thing. Never has been. It's my dad's fault. He never watched any sports. He wasn't a sports guy. But it's also my dad's fault that he was a history guy, which got me into this. So I'll paint the leggings on this guy. And we'll probably keep the same motif of giving him a white shirt on this guy. We'll probably do that for all six of the archers. So we'll have that commonality within all of them, but you're going to have different color hose and shoes, and the bows will be the same. So, there's some things that were supplied by. The nice thing about the white is the white's gonna stand out nice against any kind of a brown type of doublet or something like that that this guy's wearing. It's gonna pop nicely. So for contrast, I know we can use yellow, but we're going to use white for this one. So lighten this up a little bit for the highlights. Man, that guy's got a loud vehicle. All the barbarians are awake now, I see. Show you guys how we're doing so far. Okay, let's paint this guy's mustache. And then we'll do his hat. His happy hat. It's cold in here. That's not a complaint, just it's unusual. It's very unusual. It's cold if I don't have the fan going. Okay. Oh, we should do the white. We were talking about it. Let's go ahead and knock that out. We are going to do is, I think the last time we did this white, we mixed it with black to make it. I'm going to mix this one with brown. Just vary it a little bit of variance. I used to say, every game group has somebody who's the asshole. And if you don't know who it is, then it's probably you. Well, that doesn't bode well for me because I don't think that our group has one. So I guess it's me. Nah, we're really fortunate. Took a long time. Took a long time to get these people together. I've been in town since 81. Started wargaming about 85. And 85, 86, something like that. And in the early 90s, in the really early 90s, we had a game group that met regularly at my house for about a year or so. And then being in a college town, everybody moved away. And really didn't have any steady gaming again until in town until 2010, maybe. So it's not like I know what it's not like not to have people around to game with. It sucks. But there's always been people to game with, but I'm interested in miniature gaming and I'm interested in miniature historical gaming. So yeah, it's a subset of a very niche group of people. So not only do you need that, but you need people that are, pleasant to be around. They have the same goals as you do from the standpoint of what they want out of a game, what their purpose for gaming is. So it's a very elite group of people, if you can find them. Some people never do. They got to go to conventions to game, and I'll tell you what, I'd be totally miserable if that's the only way I could get gaming now done is these conventions, because who knows when there's going to be another one. Although I hear that Siege of Augusta went off this year, but that's 6 or 7 hours away, and one game convention or one venue to play games every 2 years doesn't cut it. It's not going to keep me motivated to paint these guys. So okay, Harvey, have a good rest of your Sunday. You guys have less of it than I do. I know you started it earlier. Sunday blues, that comes today. Again, we're not going to have any gaming tomorrow. Mitch is going to be out of town. We're going to game on Tuesday. And rumor has it, we're going to be doing something not DBA related, something totally different. So if it works out, we'll film that as well. So Don't know if it'll be any good, but why not? I know some of you guys are getting a thrill out of watching other people play games, and hey, that works for us too, so. It'll still be the same cast of characters you guys are used to here, so. Might get somebody new. I'm putting this other color down, but oh, that didn't mix well. Damn you, army painter. The Danish paints. It still didn't mix up. I'm gonna need to put one of those old things in there. I think we're gonna have to. All right, where's my balls? That's the green stuff. Army painter mixing balls. Another one of those things I took a chance on and don't regret it. Buying $6 for these little BBs. I'm like, that seems these, and I have. And I didn't put them in all the paints. I put them as I need to. I probably should use some kind of a nomenclature. Like put a little dot on the outside, so showing this one that's already has one in it, but. You can hear it's got one in there. Werewolf fur. This paint's weird. All right. It's funny because they're set on their side. My paints are all on their side. They're not. They're all sitting sideways like this. They're not upside down or anything, so it doesn't make sense that they'd misbehave like that. But there you have it. I got so many colors I don't use, especially the ones towards the right hand part of the screen. All those olive drab type colors. Yeah, I don't use most of them. A lot of those grays I don't use. If I was doing naval stuff, yeah, I'd probably use more of them, but try to mix it up a little bit. But if I was doing World War II stuff, I wouldn't use all those reds that are over here. So, you know, that's how it goes. So, it's not like these things go bad anytime soon. Come on, how about now? Yeah, it's just watery. It's weird. Yeah, I probably won't buy any more of these. I took a chance on like 6 of them. I like the colors, and I still do like the colors, but they just, I don't know, they got more acrylic in them than they do pigment. And I don't know. I still like the coat the arms ones the best, even more than Vallejo. I just, like I've mentioned before, there's nowhere here I can just walk in and get some. So, but even though they're not my favorite, they still last a long time. There's nothing worse than buying a paint and it doesn't last very long. And that happened to me many moons ago when I bought this paint called Howard Hughes. They came in big tubs and they were acrylic. They were cool. I had several of them and then they just dried out. They dried out really, really fast. They just kind of had a standard top on them, and there's nothing wrong with the color. It's just They didn't last. So that's, I'm using very little amount of paint. I mean, it's going to take me a lifetime to use any of these colors, most of these colors to use them up. And, there's no point rebuying these things if they're not being used, if they're just going bad. But Howard Hughes, I think they still make them. And Floquil, Poly S, Tester's Model Master. Tester's Model Master paints, their closure system sucks. Air always gets in there and dries them out. Poly S, that was the first acrylic paints I ever used. Kicking it like it's 1986. Okay. See, it gives this guy a tiny little bit of highlight on his mustache. That should work. Let's go do his miter cap looking felt hat thing. And this is the blue that I use. Look how it turned. We're not going to use this. Well, let's remix it with something. Let's use a brush that we don't care about so much. Hurt the brush's feelings. You don't love me no more. I never loved you. Okay. So it separates, I guess, from getting this moisture on here to where it's got all these. Now the problem with this is that it ends up making the footprint of that color a lot bigger on the wet palette. And I don't really want that because that's gonna reduce the space I can work with. But all right, so this is the same color that we used for the miter cap on this guy. We don't want exactly the same color. So I believe we darkened this with black. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the same color, but we're gonna darken it with brown. So there's a little bit of a variation in it, okay? Let's come over here to a spot, over here, and then we're going to take some of this darker brown and paint this whole cap in that color. Just little variations like that are what things you can do is just start with a different mixer in, and then, if you're doing something that's uniforms, you can add little variations of color. So where it's still the same color, but maybe the darkener you use is different. So it's gonna change it just a slight bit to where it doesn't look like everything is so uniform. If you're trying to simulate maybe uniforms that are more worn out or dirtier than others. Okay. Now, instead of continuing adding some of this, we're going to add white. Told you it was going to be different. I warned you. And this is stuff I don't plan. It just kind of happens. I didn't highlight his hair, did I? Damn me. Oh well. It's nothing catastrophic. It's just got to go back and fix it. Okay. Let's go back and do that highlight on the hair here. On the hair there on us. Back of this guy's head. Okay. Let's see, show you a little variance that we have between these two guys. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but there's a difference in color there of the hats. Some kind of felt cap or something like that. Yeah. And it'll be on two different stands because there's two stands of fast bow. So, all right, let's look at this guy's accoutrements. We may just stick to the common theme for both of them, is do the same for both. And I think that's what I'm going to go with. These guys have this stuff that's issued to them. So they're going to have the same equipment. I'm going to go use the bathroom. I'll be right back and get a refill of some coffee. So bear with me. We'll put something on the screen there and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We're back with a little bit more decibels. So everyone's awake. Okay. 4 people. I like it. People show up when I'm not here. All right. There's some more coffee. And let's see, where did I miss? Nothing. Okay. You guys just have me in the background while you're doing your hobby painting. Hopefully that's the case. That's exactly what I used to do. I'd find somebody that was pleasant to listen to and just kind of had them in the background. You know, hobby related or whatever. And it's always nice to find a long video so you're not like every 10 minutes trying to find something else to watch. So, oh, did I just drop something on? It's too early for me to start bending over. It's not a work day. This is a non-work day, no bending over. All right. Let's get back to this Hungarian dude. All right, we said we're going to stick to the same accoutrements. So let's do that. Let's pull out. Yeah, see, this is drives me crazy. I'm gonna have you guys show you. So this is my. Let's see if I can get this at the right angle here. All right, here is a view of my painting area. But as you see, as I use colors, they end up crowding my area over here. So after a while, like, look, you son of a, get out of here, you know, because it just feels encroached. We Americans like our open spaces. We don't want to get stuck on a flat here, not be able to have space around us. So let me clear some of this stuff out. So this is what happens when you guys are watching me. I'm like, what's he doing with the paints? Like that, just getting them out of my way. All right. Look at, I think we use this one to lighten it up a little bit, and the bronze. Maybe we'll run the video at this angle a little bit. You guys like that? Let me know if you think that's a good idea to run it this far away angle. You just can't see what I'm doing, but you can't really see what I'm doing anyways. I'm sure you guys are just using this for, here's the shooters there for the war wagons. I know that's going to be exciting when they start coming out. But that's going to be a long process to have on that. So, okay, we'll run it like this a little bit, have a little bit of variety. All right. Oh, coffee gets some screen time. I can put it out actually over here so it's out of the way. And then, of course, we've got all the troops already in waiting over here off to the side. This is what we've got accomplished so far, is all this stuff here on the Hungarian project. So got these guys drying up right here. Let's take a look at Philip, see how he's doing here. Where did I put him? He's all the way over here. All right. Let's see what he's looking like. He's still got some little bit of gloss on him. We'll make sure this is dry and then give him another coat. It's gonna be something we can do in between things. I don't mind mixing it up a little bit. That's good. Okay. All right. So let's get out. Let's get out this color, khaki. coat the arms. And of course, the little tab broke off. I don't think I can get a underneath this. There you go. Let's get some of this. The system with putting the airbrush thinner in the contact lens case really worked. I forgot who gave me the idea, but it was I definitely stole that idea from whoever recommended it, and I'm not sure who that is. But if you are, you can always tell your spouse that someone thought you had one good idea. So there's that. Yeah, I get ideas from everybody. That's just how we learn, you know? That's what makes the internet great. We can learn from each other. So, anyhow, let's close this up. I don't think we're going to need any more than that. We don't want these things to dry out. Okay, nobody complained about this angle. Let's run it like this for a while until you guys don't like it. Have something a little bit different vantage point. All right, so we did the belt and the arrow quiver in this color. So let's keep that going. Let's go to something a little bit smaller, like this one here. All right, let's take some of this, mix it with the black. Had someone mention to me recently that they saw one of my videos. They're a painter, and they saw one of my videos, and they liked the idea of the airbrush thinner, so they picked some up, and it's really working well for them. And that's what this is all about, man. It's about finding something that works for me, and I will help you. I will share what works for me, and maybe you'll find use of it and improve your painting experience. So I don't get paid by any of these products. I don't want to get paid by any of these products. So I'll tell it like it is. So I don't make a very good sales weasel. I just I tell it like it is. And that was just a fluke. That was just a complete fluke about this airbrush thinner. Never would have picked this up in a million years. And I saw a video on how to transfer over. So I've got these, the new Games Workshop paints like these, okay? Their paints are great. I like them a lot. But their caps, the caps seal well too, but it seems like every time I open it, I kind of got to be ultra careful not to make a mess. So I picked up a video. I watched a video about how to transfer these colors off onto an eyedropper bottle. And I transferred one of my colors over, the darkest metallic shade called Lead Belcher, into one of these. And the process from getting it from here into here took forever. I just figured it would just be pour. It's like, no, add a little bit more of the airbrush thinner, add a little bit more, add a little bit more. And it took so long that, and I still am making about the same amount of mess using this. So that's when I realized, okay, I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing that anymore. We'll go with these. We'll just leave them in the bottles where it was. But all of a sudden, I've got 200 milliliters of this airbrush thinner, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell to do with it. So I just decided to start using it as wetting drops for the brush is probably the best way to describe it. And it's been a hit. It's been a freaking hit completely. And somebody was watching me do that and said, hey, why don't you, instead of using this little, the dropper head, because this is what I was this is the original bottle of the lead belcher. I was just pouring some of it in here and then just dipping it as I went. And and the really cool thing about using the airbrush thinner is for whatever reason the colors don't stick to each other. They don't, like if this was water and I would dip my brush in there from time to time, it would end up getting the colors of the paint mixed in there. So eventually it would not be clear. It would end up being green or brown or whatever. And I don't know what the hell is in this airbrush thinner, but that doesn't happen. So I've been really happy with it. I've been really, really happy with it. It is expensive. It's like $20 for one of these, but I had already bought it. So I'm like, okay, I got to find something else to do with it. So yeah, good stuff. So yeah, somebody says, "Hey, use old contact lens case," and I'm like, I'm good with what I have. I reordered my contact prescription, and they sent me this contact lens case that doesn't look like anything else I've ever gotten. They're usually like blue and white. This one's from Easy Contacts. That's who I mail ordered it from. And I'm like, well, I gotta look. I didn't need another contact lens case, and this one looks totally different. So we'll go ahead and give this a shot. And yeah, this is working out great. So whoever you are, thanks for the idea. So I'll give you credit once you tell me who you are. And then the check will be in the mail. I don't know who it was, but you had at least one good idea. So thank you. And I like the pennies because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the way I paint is I've got this edge that I press it up against and I just rotate it around so he doesn't move on me. I'm not one of those people that paints what I like to call in midair, which means you're just kind of painting out here. I don't know how people do it. It would make me like freaking nervous as hell constantly. But I can paint forever like this because it's pretty relaxing. Usually the time that I have to get up, it's because I got to go to the bathroom or go take a leak or something. But it's the sitting part that is more difficult than anything else. So, which reminds me, do I have to this thing jack down as far as I can? I think I do. Yeah, yeah. So I got a tall painting desk and the seats is jacked down as far as it can. So try to maintain as much of a upright position as I can. So I can do it. Now I messed this thing up. Come on, get closer to me. There we go. I could do this for a long time, and my back's not going to complain. So, but enough about me. It's all good. One of the first guys that I saw doing that, I started watching on YouTube. Some people would say was pretty monotone and wasn't interesting to listen to, but I really kind of connected with him, and it was just very relaxing to have it in the background. So I'm a big fan of that. So, all right, let's see who I've pissed off in the last 30 minutes. No one. Perfect. You guys are all asleep at the wheel. Love it. Let me know if you guys are working on something in particular. We can talk about that too. So I've pretty much painted the same style since maybe 1996. And I'm not sure how I picked this up. Probably from ideas that I saw in a White Dwarf magazine or something like that. Because I think this predates the three color foundry system thing. I just think that three colors just isn't enough. especially on the face. I know that when I first saw that kind of stuff on there, I'm like, a lot of the faces at the time kind of look like meat cutting charts, a little bit too um, separated and so forth. But hey, it's just a style. If that's what you like doing, continue on with it, you know. I just like a little bit more blended than that. This is what I do is probably extreme patience, but I like the idea that I didn't cut any corners. But what made the biggest difference is this wet palette, because now I don't have to use up this color within a minute, or it dries up and I have to remix it again. And it's not so much that I can't get that same coloration again. It's just that it takes time to. I don't. I like to paint one figure at a time because I don't like to let go of this figure. I like to keep going and move them around and just picking up and putting another guy down. That's just time consuming and finicky. So I prefer to keep this thing going the way I have been. So okay, let's see. Ah, there we go. You know, you spent too long painting when your hands cramp up. I haven't had that problem, Dirk. New Zealand speaks up. New Zealand on the line. John Peter Hunt. And Deutschland. I'm rebasing my Napoleonics to DBN. It's your fault. It's not my fault. It's Joel's fault. I I don't know if I like DBN. And I'll tell you what I don't like about it. I don't like that it's based on DBA 2.2. So the infantry just moves, not the infantry, the cavalry moves too freaking slow. It doesn't move physically far enough on the, I don't know. We're going to keep playing it, but like I've said before, if I was really into Napoleonics, I wouldn't play DBN. It's just not, it doesn't have enough, it doesn't feel Napoleonic-y enough when I'm moving it. It's okay as a game. It's just, I don't have any Napoleonics to base. And I'm not tempted to paint any because, well, maybe like 6 years ago, uh, I it was close to where Mitch was going to maybe had gotten tempted to rebase his stuff for Napoleon's battles into for DBN. And I'm kind of glad he didn't, because now Joel's on the scene and he's he's going crazy with the DBN. But yeah, there's no incentive for me to paint that stuff. They already have all of it, and it's going to keep me from doing things of a period that I have a larger interest in, like Renaissance. So get this economy to slow down a little bit, and we'll start working on Renaissance rules, and maybe you guys will like them. One of my favorite periods, but that will not be based on DBA 3.0. It will be like that, but if we get around to working on them, they'll be awesome. It's just a matter of we get around to working on them. So, although I'm pretty sure I know how I'm going to work on the rules. At one point, I was like, well, I got plenty of figures. I'm just going to glue them on stands, little cardboard stands, and move them around. They'll have the troops, but they just won't be painted, because there's some units that I'm still not convinced how we're going to do the basing of them on. You don't want to do all the basing and then change your mind on what the base size might work better. So we don't want to do all that extra effort for nothing. But there's somebody in the DBA group that recently was getting into playing, and he'd cut out his little counters and like drew little, almost like stick figures. They were better than stick figures, but like drew stick figures on there on the stand. And I think that's the route I'm going to do when I go to start play testing that. But I don't know if we're going to get around to doing that. It's just there's just so much stuff going on. Just too busy, not enough free time. I don't want it to interfere with the stuff that we're doing now. So um, the DVN games I've watched, I just don't like the hit markers. Okay. I would have preferred like those little mini pom poms. They make like, those little small pom poms, and they're really, really small. They're maybe like the end of this. I mean, they're round, but and I would prefer to do that than to do the little pipe cleaner things. But you know, um, similarly, you don't like handful of dice, just pet hates. I don't like a handful of dice either. I don't like a handful of dice. I just, yeah. I know that the Renaissance rules will have hits on them, but we're not going to do them. I'm not going to do them with pipe cleaners. It takes away from the thing. But definitely have to have hits for that. Um, no, we'll see. It'll be cool if we do them because I've got lots of gaming experience to draw on. I've got lots of DBA type gaming experience to draw on. So, um, just really looking forward to painting some of that stuff. So, but it won't be hamstrung by anything that's in DBR. So it won't be, we won't have multiple stands that make up a larger unit. It'll be, if you have a pike and shot unit, it'll be a pike and shot unit. If it'll be, if you guys are really interested in that Renaissance period and you guys have a computer, I recommend you pick up the Pike and Shot game by Slytherin. It's very good and will kind of give you an idea of kind of what I had in mind of the look and everything. So it's a great little game, and it's available really cheap now. Pike and Shot Campaigns is what it's called. I had it way back in the day. I played a lot of it on iPad. The 64-bit apocalypse happened to all the i products, and I wasn't able to play it anymore. And it wasn't until I got a computer back in March that I rebought it. And cool little game. But I'm more interested in the 1500s period. I'm not interested in 30 Years War, ECW. So, anyhow, to be continued. I even considered doing at some point some 15 millimeter gaming with Victorian time period stuff, with like Sword and the Flame. But what if stuff? So you could do some Russians and British and Afghanis and. But I've played that rule set several times. I don't want to do 28 millimeter figures. I wouldn't get anything done. There's nothing would be accomplished, regardless of the cost. You know, if 28s cost what 15s cost and 15s cost what 28s cost, I'd still do 15s because I just can't take a freaking month painting one figure. I just would never ever have enough to do anything. But that's why I want to see if this basing works for these 20s because that'll bring them up to 21st century standards. And I've got enough troops painted that I can play quite a bit and not have to paint any more troops. So, especially for the scale stuff that I would plan on doing. But Okay, we need to put shoes on this guy, and he's about done. Let's buy this guy some shoes. Let's see how we're doing here. Bum, bum, bum. Nothing. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I don't mind this apocalypse so much because, like I said, I'm at least able to game. How we can communicate with people halfway around the world, literally. And this is a very wargaming is not very common to begin with. And then if you're talking about people that are interested in a very limited scope of things, yeah, it's going to be hard to find people that have the same common interests. So we need the whole world to find enough people. So I know, Dirk, you do DBMM. I gifted myself the three. I haven't even done what I got for Christmas thing. It's not like I got that much stuff, but I did get. Oh, I did get. I already had one of these. I ended up getting the other three. Let's move this away so we don't have a mishap of unusual size. I did end up gifting myself the Army list for book 3, book 1, and book 2. I already had the book 4 one as well. So, because I'm not interested in playing DBMM. Well, I'd play DBMM if you come to Florida and you're going to run games with our game group. I think we'd all enjoy those extra details, but I don't have it in me to learn something new. But I want to know the more specific breakdowns of the Army list of when they switch to different troop types and stuff. So that's why I got them, plus the extra reading or whatever, So, yeah, but I actually haven't even opened them. I haven't even looked at them because, well, I'd gotten book 4 and I'm like, and then I finally said, I'm not getting myself something. I'm going to get something that I'll have for a long time. So I got those, and yeah, I do like to build the DBA armies, but I like to build them period specific if I can. So, or at least keep in mind when I'm doing like a match pair, like if it's an army that may have an artillery piece at a certain time and I'm playing a later match with them, I wouldn't use the artillery piece kind of thing. So all that information that's in there. So I like that stuff. I have the DBM books, and I used them for that purpose for many years. So I did pick those up. I think we'd enjoy it with all the weather and stuff like that. I just don't have the stomach to play another rule system 100 times wrong before I can finally get it right. It's not about winning, okay? Because we would all be on the same playing field here. It's about playing it wrong that many times. It's just disheartening. So, okay, I think this guy's done. I think this guy is done. Da-da-da-da. Let's zoom in on these folks here. Where's my white block? This is the same pose, both figures. Yeah, they're done. That's 1/3 of the bowmen are done. Remember, when I get the other 4 figures done, this is literally an army I can run off. So, cool. What do you guys think about the angle? You want to go to back to this angle, or you want the big overshot? Let me know. I'm fine with either one. Let's find another candidate. Both of these guys have fur hats with feathers. Let's paint these 2 guys have no facial hair. Next. Yeah. And then we'll go back to doing this. And liquid motivation. Yeah, but I'm mostly a figure painter than a gamer. For example, if somebody held a gun to my head and I had to play either DBA or DBMM, and DBA I had to play it in 28 millimeter, and DBMM I had to play in 15s, I'd play DBMM. I don't want to paint 28s. It just takes too long. I won't have anything to show for it. You know, even something like Saga or something like that is just too much. It's just too much painting. It's too long to paint. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna be this anal retentive in anything that I'm gonna paint. So I don't want to. I want to get some things accomplished. We need to get things painted so that we can put them out on display and have fun with it. So let's see. Let's find us a leather corner here. Oh, that is the leather brown. Okay. All right. Time to paint this guy's doublet. This is a better angle for the figures. Oh, I know that. I just figured just to mix it up a little bit. You can't really see what the hell I'm doing anyways. You guys just kind of have me in the background anyways. I don't blame it. It's what I do. It's what I do with other folks. Well, before I film, that's what I would do with other folks. Now I don't really watch anybody, which is kind of a shame because I. The happen is there's so much good stuff on YouTube. There's one guy that. Well, there's one guy in particular that does a lot of World War II stuff. That's really informative. But the problem is I'm constantly looking at the screen. He's he's distracting me constantly with the wealth of information he provides. So I don't get as much painting done. So the way I can get most painting done is to not watch, but actually film. So that's kind of what I've started doing. As a matter of fact, I'm not doing any painting while it's not being filmed. The exception was when I varnished these other figures that I just based this morning. Which, speaking of which, let's see how the Mr. Goop is drying here. Not that we're going to do anything with it, but yeah, it's hardening up. It might take a little bit longer than normal due to the weather today. It's pretty cool. I can't finish them anyways. I don't have a flag. I don't have that flag printed. And I'm not printing the flag here. It's being printed somewhere else. That's all I'm going to do. I don't want to give away my methods. But I printed on a laser printer, so it's a little more vivid. Better resolution. But I'm invariably going to have to paint the handgunners for these guys, also known as the Saloy stands, to replace them, these bowmen, with Saloy when they, like for instance, when I match them up against the Turks, because I think these guys are just going to outclass the Turks way too much. And, we want to play balanced type games if we can. They're more enjoyable. Okay, a little bit more core color. Like I can't have like a movie or something playing in the background. I'd end up getting looking at the movie, and then the paint here won't dry. But all is I got a TV over here in the room. I gotta see if we guys get you guys a shot of that, and not pull this thing out of the mount. There you go. Yeah, we got a TV over there. But the problem is if I'm playing something over there, then I'm constantly looking off to the side, and with my brush here in my hand, and then by the time I come back to paint it, the paint's dried on the brush, and then it's going to affect the quality of the how long my brushes are going to last. And I'm telling you that because that's happened before. So yeah, TV and something that happens pictures and painting for me don't really work. This method forces me to paint longer, which means I get more done. When we get this leather done on this figure, I'm going to go back and I'm going to check on see how Phillips is doing and give him another coat of the flat. All right, so lighten this up a little bit. Good night. Time for bed. Uh-oh. Enjoy your Monday. Ooh. Hopefully you're working from home. I'd enjoy a Monday a lot more if I could work from home. You wouldn't have to get dressed for work. You're like done, right? You could have the temperature in your work environment, whatever the hell you wanted it to be. That right there is a blessing in itself. So those of you that are doing this kind of as a background, what were you guys? What did you guys used to have in a background before I started making videos? I'm curious what kind of stuff you guys like to listen to. I know some people do the movie thing. I just don't see how that would work for me. I've tried it. I don't like to rewatch things. So if I've watched a movie about whatever, I don't want to see that movie again. I want to watch new things. So that's difficult for me to paint and do that at the same time. Okay, let's check on old Phillips. See how Phillips is doing here. Seems like this is a side that has a little bit more leftover gloss. It's hard to tell when you end up brushing over. Let's give it a little bit more. It seemed to be kind of bright, shiny. Okay. The brush that I use only for this is the only thing I use this brush for. I don't want to contaminate it with other colors and end up getting some kind of a sealant that I give the figure that has a built-in tint to it and mess up the look of the figure. So maybe I'm overthinking it too much, but seems like it's a pretty easy thing to avoid, especially since this is enamels or lacquer as opposed to water-based type thing. It's pretty easy to avoid making something like that I might regret. All right, where's my dude at? Where's my dude at? Okay. That's my multitasking. All right, let's go ahead and do his bow. There's the buff. Let me check on one thing. Okay. It's been a while since I put water on this thing. And it's still holding strong, like it doesn't needs to be remoistened or anything. And let's highlight this a little bit with white. And then flesh is next. I tend to forget things. The few times that I've painted assembly line style, I'll end up forgetting a belt or something like that. So I'm actually less likely to forget it this way. Okay. Flush time. Getting pretty hungry. Have to break for food here shortly. Let's see. These are the candidates we were using for this. All right, let's lighten this up a little bit. Really, this was the better brush? Come on. That can't be the one I was using for the face. I knew it wasn't. Aha. Okay. Well, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to just take a break right now. I need to go eat something because I'm hungry a long time. But anyhow, hope you guys, thanks for following along with me. Did just over 3 hours this morning. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next time. Keep going. Keep go put something interesting on there and keep your rebasing or repainting efforts. And anyhow, thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll catch you guys next time. See ya.